So far so good. I'm busy keeping an eye on all my GoPros and my luggage, making sure no bungee cords suddenly come loose. Everything seems to be working out okay. I recently noticed that Itchy Boots, it's the YouTube channel from a woman from the Netherlands named Nora Lee. She's a motorcycle vlogger, and she recently hit the road in a big way. It was pretty amazing. She was trying to shoot motorcycle videos in the Netherlands, but then she decided that was getting kind of uninteresting for her and perhaps for her viewers, so she hit the road, and she did that in a big way. She hopped on a plane with all her gear and flew to South Africa. That was really amazing to see, and I really admire the organization that she brought to that, because she seemed to do it really fast. She didn't bring a motorcycle with her. In fact, her idea was to go to South Africa and then buy a motorcycle when she got there. And just the idea of that seems pretty wild. For me to do something like that, I would be thinking about it for months before I did it. But she seemed to just hop on a plane, go to South Africa, and just did it. She did some research before she went there, found a couple of motorcycle shops, and they listed their motorbikes online so she could see what they had in stock, used bikes for her budget. And then she found a guest house near the motorcycle shop. So when she landed in Johannesburg, she just took an Uber or something like that into town, stayed at the guest house, walked over to the motorcycle store, bought a used bike, and it seemed like within a day or two she was on the road. Really amazing to see. Took me forever just to figure out how to buy bungee cords, you know, in Mesot. And Itchy Boots, she flies all the way around the world to South Africa and buys a motorcycle when she gets there. Pretty amazing. She also seems to be traveling with 2 GoPros, which is interesting. She has one GoPro mounted on the chin of her helmet, and she's a bit luckier because motorcycles have convenient places to put a really sturdy mount for a GoPro. Hey there, puppy. On a scooter, there's no convenient place to put a GoPro. You really have to come up with your own system. But on a motorbike, it's quite a bit easier. Going to pull over for a second to check on all my luggage and various bungee cords and GoPro mounts, make sure nothing's about to fall apart. Well, everything seems okay with my system that I've worked out. Funny thing is, I watch Nora Lee setting up her motorcycle. She's got all this very advanced high-tech gear. And I couldn't help but contrast it with what I've been doing with all my DIY stuff, because I found this wire. It's like a gardening wire at the Mr. DIY store. Mr. DIY opened up here in Mesot just a couple of months ago, and it has helped out my life a lot because I always need little tools, little gadgets, little things. And while I was there, I found this bendable, flexible wire that they use for gardening, I guess. And I found like a million uses for it. And this is what I'm using to keep my GoPro in position. So that's my version of a high-tech gardening wire. Anyway, I changed the GoPro to super view, so there's a wider view behind me now. I'm not on highway 1090 yet. It's still a little bit further away from me. And then once I get on 1090, my next stop will probably be that town at 50 kilometers. There's supposed to be a really nice coffee shop there. I can never resist a coffee shop, so that's maybe where I'll stop next. I've had trouble with my voice lately, and it's one reason I haven't posted so many videos, because I would start recording with the GoPro and then I would lose my voice, and that's been happening quite often. I don't know why. Maybe I just don't use it very often, but even now that I've started to speak, I can feel my voice going again. Maybe that's the universe telling me to be quiet. Just enjoy the road. And speaking of people traveling around by motorcycle or scooter, another motorcycle or scooter vlogger here in Thailand, he came to Mae Sot and I had a good visit with him. This is Charles, and his YouTube channel is called On His Wave, Discovering Thailand. But Charles took his wave scooter on a journey all the way around Thailand, and he definitely put me to shame, because here I am making a big deal out of going 170 kilometers in one day, and he would cover 300 or 400 kilometers without breaking a sweat. That was a routine day for him. So yeah, I could never do that. But he set off from his home in Phuket and rode all the way up here to Mae Sot with lots of stops along the way. And then he continued on to the north. I haven't seen his videos from the north yet, but I think he followed the whole road through Mae Hong Son and Chiang Mai, all those places, and he's already back in Phuket. Maybe I end up losing my voice because as we're driving along on the scooter, I feel like I have to speak really loudly. So maybe I'm just talking too loud and that just wears out my voice. And of course, there is a lot going on in the world and in my world as well, being affected by it. The good news, of course, is that worldwide, the COVID-19 vaccines are rolling out faster and faster. I hope, of course, to track down a vaccine here in Mae Sot at some point and get vaccinated, but I don't know when that will happen. I'm assuming that as a tourist, of course, I won't be covered by any government programs, but if vaccines become widely available here in Mae Sot, I imagine I should be able to go to a private doctor or a clinic or to the hospital to get vaccinated. But at the moment, I haven't heard anything about public availability here in Thailand. I believe they were relying on a combination of a vaccine out of China as well as the AstraZeneca vaccine. And AstraZeneca ran into a few public relations issues, and now countries are suddenly not quite as confident in it, I guess. So I think they decided to, even here in Thailand, postpone the release of the AstraZeneca vaccine for a while and wait for some studies or something, and then it may become available again later on. So at the moment, I don't even know what vaccines will be on the will be available here in Thailand. So we're waiting for that. I think very quickly you won't be able to go to any other countries at all unless you have proof that you are vaccinated. And the other big situation, of course, continues to be what is happening across the border in Myanmar, which is very near here. The protests against the military coup are ongoing, and I've been following the news very carefully, of course. We live in really interesting times because perhaps for one of the first times in history, we're seeing major demonstrations against a military action through social media. On my trips to Myanmar, I noticed that the population there is very young, and of course they've grown up accustomed now to having the internet and using social media. So you now see a lot of video footage of on-the-ground demonstrations that perhaps in the old days through traditional media you wouldn't be able to see. So I find that really fascinating. And I go looking on YouTube for a lot of videos that are posted just by ordinary people rather than traditional news outlets. And that's really interesting. Well, we have reached the main road, 1090, and I have to go in the other direction. But in order to do that, I first have to do a U-turn. And then I'm going to do a quick pit stop, check on my scooter once more, make sure that everything is okay. Everything seems cool. It's funny getting set up for a trip like this because, as I mentioned before, my touring bicycle and my camping equipment, my tools, basically everything I own is all in storage in Malaysia right now. So when I need something, like I needed a bungee cord to put the bag on the back of the scooter, ambulance, I go out shopping for bungee cords, but I probably have half a dozen or a dozen bungee cords in Malaysia already in storage. I need a screwdriver to do something, and I have a screwdriver in my gear. I have a full set of tools, of course, with my touring bike in Malaysia, but here in Mesot I keep going off in search of all these things that I already own. It's kind of silly. As you can see, compared to traffic, I'm going very slow again. I'm in no hurry, even with 170 kilometers to cover, assuming no breakdowns or any trouble. Knock on wood, should be able to cover that today relatively easily. Here's a gas station, but I still have a full tank, of course. I just started driving, so I don't need gas yet. Funny thing is that when I rented motorcycles in the Philippines, I I never even thought about gas because you can buy gas everywhere. You don't have to go to a gas station. Just at the side of the road, there was always somebody selling gas in 1 liter or 2 liter Coca-Cola bottles. And I sort of assumed it would be the same here in Thailand, that you don't really need a gas station. You should be able to buy gas anywhere. But I haven't seen these roadside gas sellers anywhere. There's a little tent at the side of the road. Selling vegetables. You really do have to keep your eyes on the road and look ahead of you here. Because I was just driving along happily, and I noticed there was a motorcycle ahead of me coming right for me. So he was driving the wrong way down the shoulder while I'm driving the right way up the shoulder. Traffic can come at you from almost any direction. Boy, we're passing a lot of gas stations. I thought about buying a gas can, you know, a 2 or 3 or 4 gallon plastic gas can and filling it up. But I decided that was pretty over the top. I really shouldn't have to carry my own gas since I'm pretty much in the middle of civilization. And there's nowhere to put it safely on the scooter anyway. Yeah, I'm still deep in civilization, just past another gas station with another 7-Eleven. So we'll see how things go from here. I have a few technology thoughts on my mind. One is that the last time that I used my GoPros with my Rode Wireless Go microphone, I had some trouble. I noticed that the audio dropped out quite a few times, and I have no idea why that happened. And I was a bit worried that this was now a permanent problem. So I'm sort of keeping my eye on the system now and trying to see if dropouts are going to be common. If so, I'm going to have to figure out a way to fix that. So while I was thinking about my Rode Wireless Go microphone, the company Rode announced the new version of the Rode Wireless Go. And this is something that people have been waiting for a long time, because when they first released the Rode Wireless Go, the wireless microphone that I'm using, people really liked it. There is nothing on the market quite like it before. But then other companies started releasing similar microphones, and theirs were better because they had 2 microphones that you could connect to one receiver. And the Rode only had 1 microphone. So if 2 people were, doing a video together, like someone interviewing someone else, you couldn't really use the Rode because you could only have a microphone on one person at a time. So all the competitors from Kamika, Saramonic, their microphones were quite popular because they offered multiple microphones for the same receiver. And everyone was wondering when Rode was going to do the same thing. And about a month ago, they announced the Rode Wireless Go Mark II. And this one indeed has 2 microphones that can be connected to one receiver. So that's pretty cool. With my usual style, I don't really need that, to be honest. 1 microphone is enough. But if I had 2 microphones, maybe I would make good use of it. I'm not sure. But I was thinking that if I had to replace my Rode Wireless Go, if it starts to break down because of all the audio dropouts that have been occurring lately, and I had to buy a new one, I would definitely buy the new one with the 2 microphones. They added not just the extra microphone, but they also added a lot of new features. It's much more high-tech than the original version, and I don't need a lot of those fancy features, but you never know. With new technology, I find you often think, I don't need that, but then once you get it in your hands, you find out just how useful it is, and you're like, wow, how did I ever live without this before? So, who knows? But, so it's possible that I might end up buying the new version of the Rode Wireless Go. Starting to climb here. The scooter engine is working hard to get me up this hill. It's amazing how quickly the temperature changes as you climb in altitude. I've barely gone up at all, but I can feel the air much cooler against my skin all of a sudden, and we've gone up just a few meters. It's really kind of crazy. My other technology adventures are all quite small scale because I recently figured out how to use the Lazada online shopping system. I figured out a way, as I explained in a previous video, where I can just order anything I want, but then I can just go pay for it at 7-Eleven. So now that I figured out how to pay for things, I wonder if this is the refugee camp area. Something different about the houses. I have no idea. But since I figured out this system, I've been ordering a bunch of small things that are usually are difficult to find. As an example, for my reading glasses, which I keep around my neck, I have this cord, and the weird thing is that even though these cords are designed for eyeglasses, you can't buy them in eyeglass shops. I visited every eyeglass shop in Mesa, I think, and you just can't buy these things anywhere. But now that I have Lazada at my fingertips, I ordered a bunch of these, and now I have a whole stockpile of them. And this is a really, really good eyeglass cord. And again, because I'm shopping online, I can pick and choose. Normally, I can only buy whatever they have in the store. There's no choice in the matter. If that's the only one they sell, that's the only one I can buy. But on Lazada, I can figure out which ones are higher quality or have the features I want, and then I can just order it and they deliver it right to my door. So I went through a couple of weeks there where I had a package arriving at my room at the guest house practically every day. And again, nothing major. It's not like I was ordering anything expensive. The weird thing is that these cords are so cheap that it costs more to ship them than it does to buy them. And that's kind of true with everything that I ordered. But it was kind of fun to catch up on all the little doodads that I needed. So I think I'm in new territory now. I don't think I've ever come this far south of Mesa before. But again, that is one thing about traveling by scooter as opposed to bicycle. On a scooter, you really have to watch the road very carefully, even at my slow speed. So you don't see as much as you would on a bicycle, and I miss that. I feel like there's a ton of interesting things all around me, but I'm not really absorbing the scenery here as much as I would if I were on a bicycle. But having this engine is really nice. Can't argue with that. To say that the amount of construction traffic on the roads in Thailand always amazes me, because my sense is that this road south of Mae Sot is sort of taking us into kind of a remote area, not a heavily populated area. So why do they need so many trucks going in that direction? Cement trucks, construction trucks, transport trucks. A lot of activity in Thailand. And a lot of construction. When you monitor the news, of course, with the pandemic, you hear nothing but stories of how the economies have shut down. Nothing is happening. And yet, as you roam around even the sleepy Mae Sot, all you see are buildings being constructed everywhere. I mean, there's construction all over the place. Small buildings going up, big ones going up. Construction never seems to stop here in Thailand, that's for sure. Oh, I stopped just because I spotted a hotel across the road there. Kind of a place with separate bungalows. I don't know. Just find that interesting, because when I did my searches on Google Maps, I didn't find any hotels listed anywhere on this road at all. So the fact that even one exists is kind of a surprise. I just checked on Google Maps, and this hotel is listed on Google Maps. Maybe I just never noticed it before. But it makes sense that it's located here, because when I looked at Google Maps, I saw that there is a kind of a small tourist attraction right here. The Trararak waterfall is right here. And it looks interesting enough to check out, but I think I'm going to save it for another day. I could easily drive down here from Mae Sot to go check out this waterfall just as a day trip. And I'm more focused on getting to Umphang today. So I'm going to try not be distracted by little things along the way, and just keep going. Well, I've made a little pit stop. I reached that town, which is about 50 kilometers south of Mae Sot. And it's from this point that the road climbs up into the hills and becomes very windy. And it's about 116 kilometers from here to get to Umphang. So 50 kilometers to here, and then 116 to Umphang. And I have a sense this might be the last place where I could get gas. So I found a little gas station here and filled up the tank. It was 53 baht to fill it up to the top. I noticed that north and northwest of here, there's also a section where if you go northwest of this town, you hit this range of hills. I don't want to call it a mountain range because it's not really high enough to be classified as a mountain range. Call it a hill range. And it's the same hill range that I'm heading into towards to Umphang, but it extends all the way up into here and goes quite a bit further north. And I think that whole region at the bottom of the hills is really quite attractive. And there's a road leading from here out towards the base of these hills. And I started thinking it would be kind of nice to also base myself in this town for a night or two, and then just go on trips up into that hilly area up there. I noticed on Google Maps there's actually campgrounds. It's kind of a new thing for this area. They built all these campsites up on the hills, and local people go up there to see the sunrise. It's supposed to be quite a beautiful sunrise from up there. I don't think any of that is open now. You know, the pandemic has shut down everything related to tourism, but it still would be an interesting area to go exploring a little bit. So I think before I hit the road to Umphang, I'm going to drive around this town a little bit. There's a grid of little roads away from the highway, and I'm just going to drive around a little bit and see if I can spot any kind of a guest house or bed and breakfast or anything like that where I could stay. Because on my way back, it would be kind of cool just to stop here, spend the night here, and then you know, drive around this area the next day, something like that. So I'm going to go looking for a hotel or a guest house before I hit the road. Anyway, I'm going to ride around this town a little bit just to see what's here, and yeah. There's a road just on this side that actually goes to a place that's marked as lodging. But the weird thing about Google Maps is I see all these places that are marked lodging, like with a lodging pin, but then when you click on it and look at all the pictures, there's nothing there. It's just a house. So I'm not quite sure how you're supposed to know that it's some kind of a hotel or be able to stay there. Maybe it's more like a local B&B and you have to know the phone number and contact the owner or something like that. Anyway, I have no idea what the name of this town is. Maybe it's up there on that sign, on that archway. But I can't read that, of course. And I've looked all over Google Maps, but I can't find anything in English to mark the name of this town. I have no idea what it is. And you can't see the hills, but ahead of me is where the hills are. Maybe if it wasn't so hazy today, you could see them. But right now, yeah, you can't really make anything out. My GoPro mounting system still needs a lot of work. This isn't working out. I'll have to figure, like on a slightly bumpy road, the whole thing comes loose. So I'm gonna have to work out another system. A never-ending struggle. Well, I just left from this town behind me. I drove up and down every road I could find in there, and there was a lot of activity, a lot of markets, a lot of shops, a lot of stores, a lot going on, but I didn't see anything even remotely resembling a guest house or bed and breakfast or hotel, anything like that. So, yeah, I don't know if there's anything in that town at all where one could stay, which is kind of unfortunate. But yeah, I left the town and I'm looking at the hills directly in front of me. And from this point, I guess the real adventure of today begins, where the road climbs up into the hills and then winds its way 100 kilometers to Umphang. So yeah, let's go.